What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another video, and today we're going to be talking about my 2016 Honda CRF250L and why this bike just might be the ultimate play bike. But before we get out and go for a ride, I'm just going to touch base on a couple things about my bike that make it a little bit different than a stock out of the box Honda CRF250L. So a little background on it. I bought the bike used. I was working at a dealership at the time out in Calgary, and this bike came in on trade, and I wasn't riding. I didn't have a bike at the time. I was just kind of downhill mountain biking. I had stopped riding motorbikes for a short while, and this came in at a really reasonable price. I picked this bike up for $3,500, and that's in taxes, everything out the door. So it was really a deal I couldn't pass up. But yeah, let me just cover a couple of things on this bike. They're a little bit different, and then we'll get out and go for a ride and really start talking about it. So first things first, you can probably notice full FMF exhaust system on it. We have a Mega Bomb header and a Q4 slip-on. How much of a performance gain this bike actually is getting from that is, I wouldn't say it's anything crazy, but I think the biggest benefit to this is losing the stock exhaust and reducing weight on the bike. DRZ Zeta foot pegs, I put these on, as well as the Acerbis skid plate, which I think I mentioned in a previous video. Also the Acerbis oversized tank, kind of Trackmaster tires, front and rear. DRZ Zeta signal lights. Now I put these on. The DRZ Zeta tail tidy was already on there when I bought the bike, but I just put these little signals on just to clean up the back end a little bit. Just makes it a little sleeker. Aluminum handlebars, kind of the first thing I think most people besides an exhaust throw on their bike, is aluminum bars, because the steel ones, you dump them, they bend. So aluminum's, one, it's lighter, and two, they're much stronger. Rag guards in there, and then the final thing is ODI grips. It had, I don't know what was on it, some pillow lock-on grip. Like they were enormous. It was like holding on to, well, pillows, and I'm not a pillow top guy. I really like my slim full diamond grips, nice and narrow, get a good grip on it. But yeah. Oh, one last thing, this little shifter, which, by the way, I want to get the pairing shifter for the brake pedal, or the pairing brake pedal to the shifter, I should say, because this got a little whacked there, so it bent in. So good time to swap it. Good time to swap it now. But yeah, other than that, I think that's everything. That's enough just staring at it. Let's hop on and go for a ride. All right. So I got a good little loop today that I think touches on all the great things this bike does. Of course, we're gonna be talking about the things that the bike doesn't do so well, also. But I think this loop kind of encompasses all the cool little things and all the great places this bike can take you. All right. So one of the first things I really want to touch on this bike is how comfortable this bike is on the road. I've had other dual sports in the past. I had a 2017 KTM 350 EXC, and I also had the 2021 Honda CRF250L. But this bike is really nice on the road. If for those of you who don't know, the engine is pulled right out of the Honda CBR 250 in this one, and now on the new bike, the Honda CBR 300. So it is basically a street bike engine with a dirt bike chassis built around it. So this bike's on-road riding is really good. Like it's very smooth. It doesn't have, you don't get any chain slap from it. The bike is just buttery smooth. Now, while we're on the topic of riding on the road, one thing that this bike does not excel at is major highway, or if you're in the States, freeway riding. When I get on Highway 11 and stuff like that, which is the major highway in my area, it's only 100 km/h highway, but still, just being around that many cars and the speed in which you have to go, you kind of are reaching the limits of where this bike is really enjoyable at that point. So if you're looking for a more highway-oriented bike, this really isn't the bike for you. And you don't need me to tell you that. I mean, every review ever on this bike is going to mention that this is not a highway bike. But if you're going to like secondary highways, like 80-kilometer-an-hour highways, and just kind of tooling around things like that to get from secondary road to secondary road, it's perfect. Like it handles 80 kilometers an hour, no problem, just cruising. It's actually quite nice just doing that kind of stuff, which is primarily what I ride it on. Like around here in Muskoka, we have a lot of country roads, nice winding country roads, and a lot of secondary highways too. Like we got, you know, just like I said, 80 kilometer an hour, and then the roads are usually between 60 to 70 kilometers an hour. This bike's great for that. It's very, like, because it is built on a dirt bike chassis, it's so flickable. Like the handling on it is very, very direct. You have a very natural seating position on the bike because it is built off a dirt bike. And dirt bikes are designed for really very natural position and high control. They're not like a, you know, even though like a super bike is obviously designed to have very, very good control, those bikes really only start making sense when you're going over 100 kilometers an hour. Anything really, when you start getting down into riding through town, those bikes, they're not very nimble. They don't feel very nimble and free because that's not their happy place. Whereas this bike's very comfortable at these speeds. The chassis handles itself well. It's really, really nice. The front end's not overly raked out, so you can do really nice even braking on it, which is you know, a common problem when you get onto cruisers. A lot of people go to cruisers as a, you know, a nice little scoot around town bike because they have a nice low seat height. You can short shift them. They're very torquey, but the issue with having those big raked out front ends is it makes front braking on them dicey at times. Let's just put it that way. Whereas this bike, again, with that dirt bike chassis, has really, really nice, almost intuitive. That's the word I'm looking for. The control and the way this bike behaves is very intuitive because it's built on a dirt bike chassis, which makes it more fun. Like when you can predict what the motorcycle is going to do, that's something that, you know, being somebody who works in the industry, I sell power sports, that's my job. One thing you always hear guys say is like, I like when the bike kind of scares me and excites me, and that by no means is something that I enjoy as somebody who's ridden road bikes. I'm turning 32 this year, and I've been riding bikes since I was 6 years old, and I'll tell you, a bike that surprises me is not something I enjoy. I like a very predictable bike because that means no matter what situation I get into, I know what the bike's going to do. It's not like I have and that's one thing that deters me from riding things like 450s and stuff like that, is when you accidentally, you know, slip and get heavy on the throttle, they either spin and the back end slides out, or when they hook up, it launches you forward at an incredible rate, which sometimes is not what you want, which is the reason that this bike is the bike I now have in my garage and not the CRF250L, even though it was detuned. It still has the torque of a 450. It's not I was hoping it was going to be like a 250FX that went on the road, but that was not the case. It has the horsepower of a 250F, but it has the torque and the abruptness of a 450 down low. So yeah, riding around town this bike, really nice. And this is where it's happy. It really just behaves well doing this stuff. Like if you're looking for something to cruise around, and that's part of what makes this bike great. If it's really wet on the trails, like we've been having, you know, rainstorms all week or something like that, the trails are super muddy, I can just hop out after a nice, you know, sunny day when the roads are dry, and I can just go for a little scoot around town and just hop on the bike, throw on a pair of Tech 2s, you know, not full-size moto boots, and go for a little cruise. And the bike is totally happy to do that. It's really enjoyable. And living here in Muskoka, where it's all nice little old small towns, that's just an added bonus. Well, even with my FMF pipe, my bike doesn't sound that cool. like just today, I just hopped on. That's one of my favorite things about it. I mean, being a kid who grew up riding dirt bikes, my kind of thing was, my whole life was load the bike in the truck, throw the gear back in the truck, drive out to the riding area, get suited up, unload the bike. And how easy it is to access riding on this bike, I think, is one of the best parts about it. I get geared up in my house, ride out of my garage, and go to the nearest riding area. I mean, yeah, when I go down to Simcoe County, like in my last video, I do load up, only because, again, this bike is not an enjoyable bike on the highway. So I'm not going to ride it an hour down the highway, revving its head off to go for a dual sport ride. Like, by the time I get there, I'm going to be exhausted just from holding myself back from the wind. That access to riding this bike gives you, I think, is a key part of what makes it so fun. It's not a process. You just go do it. Oh, I want to go for a ride. Okay, I'll hop on my bike, go for a ride. Like, I can just open my fridge and be like, I'm out of beer. Well, I'll go for a dual sport ride. Speaking of which, we should grab some beer while we're out. We're going to be right by a brewery. Might as well grab a beer. It's a nice warm night. I'm really happy I picked tonight to do this video, because it's like 30 degrees out, like 60%, 70% humidity. Maybe not that high, but the air's nice and warm. Oh, if you're a t-shirt and shorts on a bike kind of guy, which I'm not, you'd be loving it today. Absolutely loving it. Now, I'm sure there'll be some questions. Well, if you come from riding dirt bikes, why didn't you keep the KTM 350 EXE? To be honest with you, that bike and me did not suit each other whatsoever. I had just recently come off my 2017 YZ250FX, and my hopes were that the KTM 350 EXE was going to be more like that bike than it ended up being. Now, of course, it was unlocked. I know that out of the box they're very choked up, as is the Honda 450, as is all those. We'll call those bikes street legal enduro bikes rather than dual sports, because I think that more accurately describes them, because they're street legal competition bikes. That's just it. That's just the reality. They're street legal competition bikes. I thought it was going to be more like my YZ250FX. The hydraulic clutch didn't suit me. I really like cable clutches. I like the feel you get from them, how linear they are. You get feedback from the engine through it. You can feel the motor through a cable clutch, whereas you're kind of disassociated from it on a hydraulic clutch. And that PDS rear shock, oh my goodness, I did not like that PDS rear shock whatsoever. That PDS rear shock did not work for me. And like, I was spoiled. Like, that Kayaba stuff that comes stock on Yamaha competition bikes is so good. I shouldn't have gone into it with the thought that WP Explorer stuff was gonna be that good out of the crate, because it just is not. It's not. It's soft. I mean, it is. That's just reality. If it's an enduro bike, and then a street legal enduro bike on top of that, so the valving is going to be soft, and that's understandable. It's supposed to be going over this stuff, but I was hoping for a little bit more hold up than what it was. Now that was a 2017. They've gotten better since then. They've done some adjustments to make them hold up in the stroke a little bit better. So I'm gonna pop over and down into here. Takes a little bit more effort, but she'll wheelie. She'll get that front end up. Oh yeah. Now this suspension on this bike's completely stock. I haven't done anything. Because I know that's another point that people don't like about this bike, is the suspension. And yes, it is soft. Just like the KTM was. Softer than that. It is part of the loop I used to train on when I raced. It has been years since I rode around this. I can't believe it's still... Woo! I can't believe it's still this well marked. You can jump this rock here. Yeah. See there, I bombed out the front end. Oh, just right there. I mean, the fact that I can ride out of my house, burn down the road, go for a little cruise down by the river. I mean, that's why I love this bike. Now this trail in here, this is like a little, let's say a cross track, not motocross. There's no jumps on it, but it'll work you. This trail will work you. Lots of whoops. Oh, that's a fun corner. He didn't almost drag the bars over that one. My weight was a little too far back there. Yeah. Oh man, was that fun. Actually, I'm just gonna turn around here. Muskoka Brewery. 150 meters. I think we can walk that far. That seems appropriate. Oh, all right. Pretty good. I mean, I think we're making a good case for this bike. We went for a little nice cruise around town. Beautiful hot spring day. Whipped into a little local riding spot. Rode some single track. Did a couple laps around this sand loop here. What do you think? One last time through this section here? Just because it's fun. I'm sure the beer isn't liking it. Now, by no means am I saying that this bike is better performing than a 450RL or a KTM 350 EXCF or a Husky FE 350S. That's not what I'm saying. But if you're just looking to go out trail riding with your buddies, go exploring in your local area, you want to, you know, go head up to the cottage, and you know, you don't want to take the truck into town. You just want to be able to, you know, rip into town and grab some groceries and stuff like that. This bike is ideal for that kind of thing. I think really the biggest selling point about this bike is how much you can do on it, and yet the service intervals on this thing are really, really good. Like they're so far apart. Like it's not a maintenance intensive bike. And things like the KTM and the Honda 450, they're going to be. Like when I had my 2017 250FX, I did my oil change every 4 hours, and if I was pushing it, I do it every 6 hours, and then my oil filters every 8. And realistically, if I was riding a KTM 350 EXC aggressively, I'd probably be looking at doing my services that close together too, just to make sure that I'm going to get the life out of the bike that I want. I mean, they're expensive. You don't want to. I like, the worst thing I want to hear is that my bike is no good because I didn't want to buy 20 bucks worth of oil. So that's another really nice part about this bike. It's almost like out of sight, out of mind when you're not using it. It's all like, oh, right. I went for a long ride with the guys today, and we were pounding single track. Like, oh, I really got to do an oil change on my bike before I go for another ride. Like I do maybe 2. If it's a busy year, I might do 3 oil changes a year on this bike, and that's it. You know, like it holds a lot of oil, and it's a pretty low performance engine, right? I mean, considering a competition 250F produces around 45 horsepower, this bike with the same displacement is only producing 22, around there. And also, it being a street bike engine, you can put 20,000 kilometers on this motor and you'll be fine. That's a big part of this for me, and why I enjoy this bike so much. It's just, it doesn't ask anything from me, and yet it gives me so much. Like I can just, exactly what we're doing here. Like this is exactly why I decided to do this video on this bike and do this route on this bike, because this bike is so much fun. It's everything that dual sporting and dirt biking should be. You know, it's just about getting out on your bike and having a good time. I just went from whipping through the trees, doing some single track, over to that little sandy cross track, pounding whoops, stop, grab some beer at the brewery that just backs onto that little riding area, and now I'm riding down this really nice windy country road. Like, what other bike can you do all that for under $5,000? Right? Like, that's crazy. And you can get these bikes for under $5,000. That's not unreasonable. And even if you went to buy one brand new, I mean, I think the new 300 is like $6,500. Now I know there's fees on top of that and everything else, but man, the amount of bang for your buck you get with these things, it's crazy. It's absolutely crazy. And you have the Honda reliability from it. I mean, this thing bears the red wing. Like, if there's any stamp of approval, that is it. That's the stamp of approval of motorcycles. The Honda wing. Like, that is just, that's an insurance policy all to its own for just reliability and build quality, right? That's what Honda have built their name on. Forever. It's just reliability. That's what I mean. I mean, like, you can put 20,000 kilometers on this bike and really just have to do oil changes, air filters. I mean, if you're really beating it up, maybe some wheel bearings. You know what I mean? Like, minimal stuff. And you want to put 20,000 kilometers on a FE350S. There's going to be some top ends in there. Right? I mean, it's not gonna, like, that thing's not gonna go 20,000 kilometers. It's just not, right? And as fun as they are, I'm not gonna call them a play bike. I mean, that bike wants to be something it's not, and that's the big thing. This bike is exactly what it is. It's a little fun dual sport bike. But an FE350 or a 500 EXC, those are race bikes that have been neutered. Like, that thing wants to be something it's not. And it's going to be running really lean, which is going to cause it to run hot. And it's, you know what I mean? It's going to want something different than what you're going to give it. Right? It's going to want to be ridden hard all the time. And unless you uncork it and start giving it more fuel, they are going to run hot, and they're going to, you know, have the typical issues that come with a bike that's running really lean. So just as a summary here, do I think this is the ultimate play bike? Yeah. I mean, look what we did on today. What else could you ask for? And to me, what makes it even more of the ultimate play bike is its ability to go on the road. I can just, no loading up, no nothing. And I'll ride home after our video today and get unsuited in my garage and hop inside and have a shower. So that's it for this video, guys. Hope you enjoyed it. Thanks for watching. Let me know. Do you guys think this is the ultimate play bike? What's your guys' thoughts on it? Let me know in the comments. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and we'll catch you in the next one. Peace.